Don't you just love election season? Man, I do. Actually, no, I don't. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of it. It's all a bunch of lies and it's all a bunch of fluff. But what we're not going to get into in this video overly is how sick I am of the whole selection season. We're also not going to get into the whole Electoral College, which is who actually elects the federal president. That's what I'm talking about in this video. The federal level. Who selects the president and vice president? Well, it's not the majority of the people in America. It's the Electoral College. Well, no, that's not true. You know, there's 29 states that have laws that say that the Electoral College has to go with the majority vote in the state. And that's the people. Yeah, 29 states do have a law in place. What happens if they go against that? If they go against what the people of their state voted for, they get a monetary fine. It happened in 2016. You can look it up. So in essence, your vote means jack squat. Gasp, a monetary fine. Some big donors pay for that, and it ain't nothing to worry about. Well, we're not going to get into all that, see. We're also not going to get into female emperors or rulers or presidentes or whatever you want to call it, and their success record in failed empires, which is 100%. Put another way, I'm sorry, ladies, you have a 0% historical track record. Well, we're not going to even hardly mention that. We're also barely even going to cover the topic of possibilities of fraud in a federal election, and that has been going on at a minimum since the election of John F. Kennedy. There were crap tons of stuff that came out after the fact where, they stole the election. Well, gasp and shock. I mean, what's done is done. We just got to move on from that. Or this 2000 election with George W. Bush. Wasn't he a winner? Wasn't he a great conservative? We don't want to really talk about that on the conservative side, do we? But the alternative there was old Albert. See, you have no choice, really. But we're not going to get into all that, see. Got a big election coming up. And that's what this video is going to focus on. There's some big issues coming up. I mean, the economy, border security or lack thereof, energy prices, namely fuel. But electricity now is getting almost unaffordable for most Americans. There's some big issues. Or if you're a Democrat, I mean, gosh, abort TION because I can't speak freely on the YouTubes. But hey, I'm still here, so we got to play by their rules. And somehow they think I don't know. What I'm saying is that there's some big issues, just coming down the pipe. What you're not going to hear, what you haven't heard from either of the two-party uniparty system in this election, well, it's a couple things. You're not going to hear the word Constitution. That's not in anybody's vocabulary of the two, he and she. I can't even use those terms, I guess. But anyway, that's not in their vocabulary. We're not going to talk about the big C word. We're just not. Because, it's the foundational law of the land. Why would you even bring that up? Another thing we're not going to talk about is reining in the expansion of governmental control, which is just off the charts. It's out of control. We're not going to talk about government spending. We're just not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about new systems and new departments and new policies and old policies and some fluff and some, what people want to hear you lie about. That's what we're going to talk about. The trouble with that is you cannot vote your way out of $36 trillion in debt. Do you think that these politicians are, going to fight for you? I mean, maybe you do think that. A lot of people think old Dorito guy is on their side. I don't know what they base that on, really. Isn't he a billionaire? I mean, just like you and me, right? Billionaire? I don't know. And then there's the track record, see? Because the first go around, his first try, he was going to drain the swamp. But he loaded his cabinets with guys that were deep state, big bank, big corporate interest, just chock full of them. So I'm wondering where this whole theory of like, he's on our side, he's going to fight for the little guy. All right, I guess. And then there's her. Look, I want to be very clear about this. Don't be unburdened. Look, I was born in a log cabin in 1522. I mean, just if you're going to lie to us, spruce up the story way more than you're doing now. Give me something that I can, like I can get on board with this, Give me the log cabin from 1522. You had to fight off guys in chainmail in your yard and stuff. That's what I would do if I'd run for president. I'm going to lie to you right to your face and expect you to believe it. And if not, you're a hater. You're full of hate and violence and every vile thing. You're disposable and despicable and discriminant and all kinds of bad things because you didn't believe what I said. Isn't that where we're at right now? But you're going to vote. You're going to change that. Good luck with that. In my estimation, we're left with really only two options. You can go vote, which, doesn't matter, but you can. And you can hope that they are going to do the right thing. And it's going to work in your favor somehow. They are not going to pay any attention whatsoever to their corporate masters who are going to dictate the terms to them and make campaign contributions to get them reelected or keep their party in power or what. They're not going to do that. They're going to listen to you. Hope is not a strategy. Do you understand that? But that is, one option we have. And then another option, and I'm not recommending this. I'm just throwing out things and asking questions about it. The other option is burn it all down and start all over. Do you think they're going to willingly give up this power? And that's what it boils down to. Power, greed, self-interest, protecting themselves and protecting their buddies. So, in theory, the best way to go about this would be just get rid of the whole shebang. You'd have to get rid of all of them. Every one of them. All of them. Even the guys that you declare good guys. In the state I live in, they claim they have a good guy. And I don't really know much about the guy other than he's been in office too long. And I can tell you that because he's been in there multiple terms, 3, 4. I don't know where we're at this point. I don't really care. He's not fighting in my best interest. He needs to go. Politics was never meant to be a career. It shouldn't be a career. And I don't care if he's the best guy on the planet. He needs to go. Because that's how this corruption crap sets in. Getting reelected. Well, we got to vote for him or her. I mean, it's the only choice that's on the ticket. And that shows your whole setup is flawed. Now, maybe that's the best we can do. Maybe if they had term limits, things would be worse. You couldn't get elected. Then you'd really fleece the coffers. Shake the last dime out of the taxpayer. What are they going to do? Vote you out? They're going to do that anyway. So maybe it would be worse. I don't know the answer to that one. But let's suppose that the whole system was torn down. And those that are supposedly leaders, and they're just going to willingly shucks. I guess this is what we get for, being corrupt and on the take and all. So there's a good run, thanks, and they're just going to recede back into the background. The trouble with that is somebody's still going to have to run it. They've done multiple studies, universities, schools, think tank groups, where they've done these mock-up things where a certain group is in power and a certain isn't. It's just a study. It's an experiment. They've done tons of them in colleges. Several of them I was reading about, it was like a prison thing. And some of the students were prisoners and some of them were wardens and stuff. And it got so corrupt so fast, within 30 days, it was like an overlord power system. It wasn't like that. It was that. And it shows over and over and over that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I wouldn't do that. If I was in charge, I'd do the right thing for the people for a change. And more than likely, that's probably not true. You're going to tell me you wouldn't get your buddies some sweet government positions with lifetime pensions? You wouldn't elect your best pals for, such and such secretary of la-di-da so they can get on a sweet paycheck, You wouldn't do that. No, just honest to the core. Interesting, because you're the outlier. Most people would do exactly that. This is some of the problems we have. But to get these people are so invested. So many of them now are so invested that they'll watch Fox News all day long. They'll watch CNN all day, and it's just this bombardment of crap. First of all, you ought to have something productive to do. Something productive, not upcoming election. And second of all, you ought to have a little bit of discernment within yourself to think logically and think, how have these systems benefited me over the last, however old you are? How have they benefited my parents, however long they've been alive? Did they ever work in the people's favor? Ever? Or maybe they started out with good intentions and then it just got watered down, it got sidetracked, it got corrupted. The whole thing now is so blatantly obvious, but they have put in place, they've legally codified that they can use lethal force against Americans at their discretion, and there won't be any, we just following the law. It was an emergency. But you're going to change that. You're going to vote. Let me know how that works out for you. I do appreciate you watching. You can tell me how I'm wrong in the doobly-doo if you'd like to. I thank you for your time. I will see you next time.